Ah, thank you. Now, you couldn't hear me. All right, that's better. So I'm going to back up and just do the first slide one more time. So welcome to today's webinar. And as I said while I was muted, I hope that wherever you are in the world and whether you're listening live or via recording, that you're safe, sound, and doing well. So let's get started on today's webinar. Let me just get things moving here. Everybody can hear me and see the presentation. So we will continue on. First, a few technical issues. If you'd like a copy of today's presentation, there's a handout section in your control panel and you can download the presentation. If you're viewing this via a recording, simply send me an email and I can send you a copy of the presentation if it's not available during the recording. If you'd like to ask a question, open up the question panel, ask your question, and depending on how much time we have at the end of today's session, I'll try to answer some questions. If you are a certified public accountant in the United States and you would like to receive 1 hour of CPE credit for attending the live part of today's webinar, you have 3 things you have to do. You will have to answer the 3 polling questions which will come up throughout the webinar. You must be logged in for at least 50 minutes. You must attend the live event, and the software will take care of all this. And if you do all these 3, just please send me an email and say I'd like a certificate. I'll be glad to send you one out. So today, there's going to be a brief introduction about lean accounting. We're going to talk about a lean accounting philosophy, how we develop our accounting and finance people in lean accounting, what process do we use to really deploy and practice lean accounting, and how do we employ problem solving? Then we'll have some wrap up and some questions. There are 3 learning objectives today that I'd like you to take away from this, is to be able to develop a lean accounting philosophy in your business, understand the steps to sustain and structure practicing lean in accounting processes, and explain the steps to sustain a lean management accounting system. So let's get started. Exactly, what is lean accounting? We have to think of it as taking lean thinking and applying it to all accounting and finance processes and systems. Lean accounting is an essential component of a lean strategy. It is strategic in nature. There's a lot of things you do in lean accounting, but it is very much part of a strategic lean deployment. In a manufacturing company, we deploy lean practices in operations. Overall lean strategy is we want to have, for example, lean product development. And so lean accounting is just a natural extension of all this. We want to develop a deep understanding of the value that our accounting customers want from us in accounting. We want to flow all that value to our customers, internal and external, and we want to respond to customer pull. Very, very similar to the principles of lean. So there are 4 steps to structuring a successful lean accounting transformation. Lean accounting is much more than just jumping in and starting to do things. You really have to give this some thought at the beginning and get the right people involved, because you'll see as we talk about this, accounting lean accounting is much more than just the accounting department. So our future state, the 4 steps, you have to create a philosophy. You have to have a people development plan for your finance and accounting staff. You have to determine the overall process at which you're going to deploy lean accounting and how you're going to know how well you're doing in terms of measurement. And we want to focus on using problem-solving methodologies. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take each one of these in detail. So let's start with philosophy. For many years, I've been lucky to be involved in terms of training and education for lean accounting for over 20 years, and many times I've heard from at conferences or in lectures or even reading books, you hear the phrase traditional accounting. And I've always been a little hesitant to use that phrase because from an accountant's point of view, there's only one way to do accounting. And traditional sounds like, well, okay, there's another way to do accounting. But the more I've thought about it over the years, this is just the phrase. It really doesn't describe what accounting does, but it describes sort of a thinking and approach to what accounting is. Let me explain. First, there is a focus on financial reporting. Now, at one level, I'm a CPA and I got my accounting degree. We can't help this because this is how we're trained. It's about being good at financial reporting. Another aspect of what I would consider the current state of accounting thinking is our job is to get the numbers right. Now, when I say fix the numbers, I don't mean make the numbers up, but we need to, we focus on financial reporting. We got to get these numbers out. So we just need to make sure they're right and do whatever it takes to get them out. So let's fix the errors, let's find the errors, let's fix them. Our thinking pattern is really linear, what I call linear cause and effect. The idea is that, there are simple direct relationships between what the numbers are and what created the numbers, or vice versa. If we want the numbers to improve, what do we have to do? And then the fourth aspect of traditional accounting is that we are the isolated experts. How many times in your company is the phrase used, well, go talk to accounting about that, as if we're something special. Go talk to accounting. So really, this is what we're trying to do is change this thinking and approach. And so we start with a lean accounting philosophy. So what is that philosophy? First, it is about value, understanding customer value to all our customers and delivering it. We need to employ system thinking. Now, whenever you talk about an accounting system, the first thing most accounting and finance people think of is what software do we use? But this is not what this is about. This is about looking at accounting from an organizational viewpoint in terms of systems that run in any organization. How does accounting fit inside the different systems in the organization? There's a lot of interdependent parts in any company, and they all need to work together. And it's really sort of the opposite approach of thinking of functional silos. So we want to develop system thinking. The third is learning. We need a structured approach to learn. Now, this is not just training and educating accounting people, but this is about accounting people learning about the business, learning about problems and issues, learning about lean, and it's also about accounting being able to be teachers and coaches. So we have to adopt a learning approach. Another way to think about this is accounting doesn't have all the answers. And we need to understand that, just like any lean organization thinks this way. We don't have the answers. We need to learn. Fourth is a very deep understanding of relationships in the business. And we're talking about the value propositions, the systems, and how do these work? This is a understanding of relationships. And, there's a lot of dynamics which go into any relationship. So let's look at each one of these in more detail. Lean accounting has many customers, and they all have some similar and some different value propositions. If you think about external customers and internal customers. Now, our external customers, examples that you see here, we in accounting and finance, we're very familiar with this. These are the customers that we are trained and educated to serve. It's all about the output of the financial numbers. It could also be about, how do we get an accurate invoice to a customer? So we understand all this, but we also have a great deal of internal customers. Now, we recognize this, but when you become a lean organization, the needs of your internal customers really begin to change dramatically. And this is where a lot of the focus on understanding value comes into play. If you look at things from a process perspective, a couple of unique aspects is that many of your internal customers are also suppliers of information that accounting eventually processes, which is unique, as opposed to, for example, a manufacturing operation where your external customers say, I want to buy this product, and you make the product and ship it. And as I said a minute ago, the needs change because of the dynamics of a business. So at one level, you have to really start thinking deeply about your customers and how do we serve all of them better. When it comes to system thinking, we talk about our accounting processes. And from a traditional viewpoint, we think of, for example, accounts payable, accounts receivable, month-end close. But from a lean accounting viewpoint, we want to broaden this thinking in terms of what is the actual system. So yes, we have accounts payable activities which go on in accounting, but that's not just the entire process. The entire process is procure to pay. So we want to develop this system thinking in terms of that. Same thing with accounts receivable. We have activities we perform in accounting which are traditionally thought of as accounts receivable, but we look at order to cash. So this is one way to start developing system thinking, is to build awareness of the process that accounting is that accounting activities are part of. From a management accounting viewpoint, the traditional view of management accounting is that, the accounting department is the custodian of the management accounting system, and accounting does all the top-down analysis and sends the information down and tells people to use it or tells people what to do. From a lean viewpoint, you have to think of management accounting as a distributed system, that it supports lean operations. It supports decision-making and analysis throughout the organization. And there's a lot of equal responsibility in the maintenance and the key upkeep of the management accounting system. It doesn't all fall on accounting, but accounting needs to provide leadership. Third is in terms of decision making, this idea of there's linear cause and effect, and even and throughout the organization, we know how to make these decisions. What we want to do is understand have cross-functional understanding of the relationships which go in to the factors in terms of how do we achieve the outcomes we want to achieve. And this is more of a process. So it's very important to understand another aspect of system thinking is the accounting in an organization is very broad and deep in the organization. It is not just the accounting and finance staff. There are very few, if you think about information and data and how it flows through the organization, where it starts, how it ends up in accounting. If you think about the information that accounting produces and how it's used in the organization, there are very few employees in an organization that don't either supply the information that accounting is going to transform and use, or they use accounting information. So again, we have very broad, deep accounting systems in our company. When we think of learning, we have to think of what lean really is. Lean is really a people-centric learning strategy. The idea is you want employees, teams of people, and the organization as a whole to master their work by learning. To do this, they have to find the right problems to solve. They have to be trained and educated on the capabilities to solve the problems. They have to have the ability to analyze the different contexts in which the problem occurs, with a goal of doing things tomorrow that we can't do today. We talk a lot about lean practices and methods and tools. Those are all tools which are used to learn. For example, if you tell people to do a Kaizen event, but if they don't know what a Kaizen event, the purpose of a Kaizen event is and how to run it, then they're not learning anything. So the idea is to develop this learning attitude in individuals on accounting and finance staff, the accounting department as a whole, and within accounting, use this learning practice and also become teachers and coaches in an organization. We'll talk about that in a little while. The fourth piece is developing a deep understanding of the dynamic relationships between numbers and people that use the numbers and people that work in the process and the process. All these are very much related. They're very organic and dynamic. They're not static. And as I mentioned a minute ago, in terms of learning this, in what context are numbers being used? And so this is really a collaborative basis. It's more than just accounting being good at this. It's accounting working with the rest of the organization to develop these deep understandings. So what are your next steps? You want to develop a lean accounting philosophy. And the idea here is, what's the purpose of accounting? What is your mission? What is your true north? This is beyond debits and credits. This is beyond getting financial statements out. But what's the purpose of accounting in your lean organization? Develop system thinking, that your accounting system, or you could use the plural, systems, it's a set of interconnected parts with many people involved. So redefine the whole view of accounting in the organization. And third, how is accounting and finance going to contribute to your organization's lean strategy? Whether it's the staff individually or as a whole, and also the information. how can both the people and the information be integrated into what I like to call a lean learning organization? So we're going to take a little bit of time here. Sorry, I need to do some things. And I need to open up the first polling question. So here comes the first polling question, and I'll explain it to you, and you simply answer it. Here we go. So a lean accounting philosophy, you know, what does it do? Does it define the purpose of accounting, define the role of accounting in a lean strategy? Does it establish a true north, or all of the above? So please take a few minutes and respond. Take about a minute. I'm watching what percentage of people respond, and like to get about 80%. Alrighty. So the correct answer was number 4, all of the above. Most of you got that. Great. So now we will move on. People. In a lean strategy, you hear a lot about respect for people. And I think a lot of people misinterpret that. You know, it's more than treating your people right. It's also about coaching and challenging your people to get better as at the work they do and the way they think. It's really about development. And respect for people is an integral part of lean in terms of how we think as an employee every day and how we approach our work. So lean accounting, people development. Let's look at this from a traditional viewpoint and a lean viewpoint. From a traditional viewpoint, learning is all about technical training. You know, I got to get my CPE hours. From a lean accounting viewpoint, it's about developing an understanding of the relationships between the needs of accounting's customers and the processes which are supposed to provide the value that the customers want. Organization. We think about the accounting department. We have to change our thinking in terms of that we are really part of cross-functional process teams. That was the example I used a few minutes ago, that we have to stop thinking just about accounts payable and think about the entire procure to pay process. We have to think about the suppliers of the information we use. We have to think about the customers of the information we use and develop that cross-functional approach. It's more like a team approach than a functional silo approach. Expertise. Yes, we're good at financial accounting, and that's what we try to do, and we always want to get better at it. What we want to do here in lean accounting is strike a balance between all of our customers' needs, internal and external, and being financial accounting experts. I am not saying we get away from being financial accounting experts, but we need to balance that with also meeting customer needs and understanding them. And finally, developing people. You know, traditionally we think about being better accountants. What we want to do is become lean financial coaches. And I'd like to focus on this lean financial coach role for a few minutes. So before I get into any details, the easiest way to think about what is a lean financial coach is for, just take a few minutes or a few seconds and think about, first of all of your teachers. Think about really the good teachers that you had throughout your career, or your education, whether it's at the university level or even the high school level or below. But the teachers that you really liked the most were really coaches because they tried to make you better. If you ever played a sport, you probably had a coach. If you ever took up a musical instrument, you had a teacher, which was really a coach. If you any type of skill that you wanted to master, and you typically had someone that coached you. So, the idea is that a coach, the role of a coach is to make you better at something and help you achieve goals. So this is really the strategy in lean accounting of developing the staff. When I mean this, I mean from the leaders, the CFOs and the controllers and the accounting managers, all the way down to the people that work inside the processes. This is all very relevant to everyone in accounting. So what does a coach do? They need to be present. I mean, if you ever took a music lesson, you always had your teacher present. Your teachers were in your classroom all the time. And you had routines that you used. And I'm going to explain improvement in coaching kata routines in a second. Your teachers listen and observe. Are you learning? And that's really what the role of a coach is. This probably should be first, but I have it third, is you have to establish relationships. An effective coach, just like an effective teacher, has a relationship with you. And this is a very different view of accounting. I'm not saying accounting doesn't have relationships with people, but these are very strong relationships built on trust and respect. And also celebrate learning and celebrate success. And so this is the role of the coach and what you want them to be doing. So how do you coach? The idea is to use coaching kata routines. And again, if you've played a sport, you practice, you take repetitions, you do things over and over again. If you try to play a musical instrument, there is a specific methodology. You have to master certain skills before you can move on to the next skill. So think about this. It's from a lean accounting point of view and a lean company point of view, the coaching routine, and this is what you as a coach, this is the method you use to teach people. It's basically 5 questions. What's the target condition? It doesn't matter what you're talking about, but what's the target condition? What's the goal? Where are we today? What's the current state? What are the obstacles and which one will you address next? And then what are your next steps? What are you going to do next? And finally, when can we go see what you're doing? So the idea here with a coaching kata routine is to get the people you are teaching or the learners to think. So you consistently ask these questions because you're trying to get them to think that way. And you're going to see on the next slide what the improvement kata routine. There's lots of problems to solve. And so really, as a coach, what you're trying to do is get either an individual or a team of people to work on one problem at a time. At one level, it doesn't matter what it is, but let's work on it. The improvement routines, very similar type questions. Now, this is what you want the learner or the student to go through. One is understand the direction or the challenge. Where are we headed? What's the vision? What's the goal? Where are we today? What is the immediate future state? What is the goal we want to accomplish in a very short period of time? then you want the student or the team to experiment towards what do we have to do to achieve that one target condition. Now, this isn't, again, the long-term goal. This is a very short-term goal. So this is really problem solving, and it's what I would call single piece flow problem solving. Let's solve one problem at a time. So by the coach asking the question, you establish this improvement routine. So where do we deploy these coaching and improvement Kata routines as lean financial coaches? Inside our accounting processes with daily lean management practices, for example, in procure to pay, even things that reside more in accounting, such as month end. In our management accounting system, there's daily and weekly operational management routines where we need to really develop lean financial coaches to participate in those routines and even continuous improvement events. In my regular lean accounting training, when I talk about continuous improvement, I say that, we need to understand if there's what the financial impact is of every improvement event. It may not just simply be cutting costs. It may be something else. But in order to understand this, we need a financial coach present. And then in all our decision-making routines, where we analyze numbers. So this is about deploying the lean financial coaches in these areas. So now I need to do a little movement of my mouse here. And excuse me, I need to find my mouse first. Hold on one second. All right, let me open up the second polling question. And I'm going to launch the poll. So people development for accounting means what? Getting more CPE, get better at closing the books, becoming lean financial coaches, or help get promoted. Yes, you got the correct answer. Everyone did. Great. All right, so let's get back to the presentation. So let's talk about process and problem solving. Now, I'm going to do this one a little bit differently because there are two basic practice areas of lean accounting. There's the management accounting practice area where we're trying to create relevant and reliable information for our lean organizations to improve the quality of analysis and decision making. There is also lean thinking in accounting. So how do we practice lean in all of our accounting processes, improve quality and free up capacity? So I'm going to talk about these separately because when it comes to process and problem solving, there's a little bit of the difference. The overall goal, this is what we're trying to achieve, is service excellence. So the idea is flow value to all our customers. We want to think in terms of systems. We want to learn in a collaborative way, and we want to develop a deep understanding of relationships. And I know I've repeated this a few times throughout the presentation, but it's really, really important for this thinking to be part of a lean accounting transformation. So let's look at process and problem solving in accounting. Your first step is to establish some strategic process, what we call strategic process principles, and develop these. What are our goals? So and here are some examples. One, value, developing a deep understanding of our customers' needs. So these are all the customers that use the information in accounting processes. We want to strive for single piece flow. This is a goal. We want to have small batch sizes and flow faster. We want stability. We want level work patterns as much as possible. And we want to respond to pull customer requests. The idea behind strategic process principles is they're broad and they don't change, but they help guide. Here's what they do. They guide our operating practices and they guide our problem solving. Remember when we talked about accounting and customers, we have a lot of different customers and a lot of different value propositions. The next step is to establish daily operating practices. So what should our daily operating practices look like in our accounting processes? First, we want to establish standardized work. Now, the phrase standardized work has a specific meaning in Lean, and it is basically the best known repeatable way to perform an activity to achieve a certain level of quality and be done in a standard time frame. And standardized work serves as a basis for learning and improving. The idea behind standardized work is not a policy, not a procedure, not a training manual. It's how do we perform the activity? And if that activity is performed by more than one person, how do they perform it the same way? The reason standardized work is important, and I'm talking about it first, is you can't improve if you don't have standardized work. This is why the idea of, well, yeah, we're doing Lean, we're making improvements. If you don't have a standard, you don't know if you're improving. Second is quality at the source. So how do we identify defects early in the process? How do we create short-term countermeasures to contain the defect or make a quick fix? And then in the long run, how do we prevent these quality problems from recurring? We want to establish visual management practices. How are we going to manage this process visually? Understand, we want to make the work visible. Most of your work inside an accounting process is transforming information, and it's typically hidden on computers, and what do we work on next? So we want to make all the work visible. Now, this is sort of more natural in a manufacturing operation on the shop floor, but it can be done in any process. We want to understand the status, we want to understand problems and issues, we want to see priorities, all visible. The fourth piece is measurement. We need to measure the process, not people. We're measuring process. Are we achieving our schedule? What is our quality? What is our productivity? Are we flowing faster? So these are basic Lean performance measurements you want to put in place. So that's, and the goal in terms of problem solving is understanding waste. There are 3 types of waste. One is MUDA, the 8 types of waste, and I'm going to explain those in a second. There's 2 other types of waste which are very, very important, which really are not talked a lot about in accounting. One is MURI, overburdening, and one is MURA, which is unevenness. So MURI is overburdening the process or the people that work in the process. So for example, here's a simple accounting example, your month-end close process. How many hours a day does accounting work to get the books closed and the numbers out? Another example of overburdening is how many times do you pull people out to attend meetings or they're interrupted for whatever reason? Unevenness is about variability, the variability of the work, and some of that is self-created, some of that you can't help. For example, here's an example of unevenness. You know, at month end, you want to get all these invoices out because we want to record the revenue this month for financial reporting purposes. And maybe those invoices have lagged in terms of getting information to complete the invoice. So we need to recognize the unevenness and the overburdening. Here's a simple way to think about this in terms of unevenness and overburdening. How many of your accounting staff come in early or may stay late or maybe work through lunch so they're not disturbed so they can quote unquote get their work done? If that is a work pattern in your organization in accounting, you probably have some unevenness and overburdening. Another example of overburdening, it's a quote about month end. I was helping a company improve their month end process, and I said, "What should the future state be?" And one of the staff raised their hand and said, "Well, if everybody would just leave us alone for 3 days, we'd get it done." So what's the waste in accounting processes? This is a simple way to think about it. The acronym is downtime. So D stands for defects, missing or incorrect information, or reworking any process step. Here's a simple example. What percentage of invoices that are processed in accounts payable have errors in them? That's a defect. Overproduction, unnecessary work steps, doing more than is needed, the idea of checking and reviewing. Waiting is about delay between process steps where the work is waiting to be done. Neglect of human talent is not striving to improve, maintaining the status quo. You know, the idea that, okay, yeah, we are lean. We don't have to get better, we're good at it. No, that's neglecting human talent. Then there's the movement of information between systems and between software systems and Excel. There's batch processing or work in process, which is inventory. There's the movement of people. And then there's excess processing, which is work that does not add value. The example of excess processing is the traditional stereotypical view of accounting, is that we want to get things down to the 4th decimal point. So the best way to get started is to establish daily lean management practices in your accounting processes. What should you do? Create a visual board. What's the demand or the priorities for the day? What's the status of the work? Make the defects and problems and issues visible. Conduct a daily team huddle. Do root cause analysis in that huddle. Have immediate short-term fixes. How are we going to handle this problem right now? And long-term problem solving. You deploy this in a pilot methodology. You don't start doing it everywhere. And here's the great part I found about establishing daily lean management practices. One, you're practicing it every day, so you're going to learn faster. And it's really easier in this context to talk about problems and issues as opposed to trying to, just start with the mapping of the process. What we're trying to achieve is basic operational improvement through our daily lean management practices. Can we execute against a standard? Meaning, can we get the work done today that's supposed to get done? Secondly, can we learn how to identify and eliminate defects? We want to get good at that. Then, how can we strive to create new standards and improve? So let me open up polling question number 3. I'm going to launch the poll. So which is not one of the types of waste in accounting? Muda, Harikari, Muri, or Mura? All right, I'm going to close that poll. We're done with the polls. And we'll go back to the presentation. All right, so let's talk about management accounting. I'm going to start here with the waste. Again, using the acronym of downtime. There's a lot of waste in management accounting systems when you adopt a lean strategy. And it's very, very important to recognize this early in the lean journey. In terms of defects, the information in your management accounting system may not be aligned with your lean strategy and could be incorrect. What that does is it makes it hard to do root cause analysis. Your cause and effect link is broken. For example, I'll give you one quick example. If you're in manufacturing and absorption, okay, so we need to absorb our overhead. Well, if that is part of your management accounting system, the only way you make the absorption of overhead look good is to produce products. And if you're producing products in excessive demand and building inventory, that's anti-lean. So that's an example of a defect in information. There's a lot of unnecessary work steps. Think about all the transactions needed to record all this information. Think about all the analysis that has to go on. There's long feedback loops. A lot of this information is only available monthly. The neglect of human talent. I think this is very, very important, is that, not recognizing that we have to improve our management accounting system to align it with our lean strategy. There's a lot of movement of information. There's the standard setting process, which is really a big batch process. You do it once a year or maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Think about all the meetings that are held with your current management accounting information. A lot of it is trying to understand what that information is. And then there's the whole maintenance of a management accounting system. So what are the strategic process principles? One is we want to create relevant and reliable information to meet our customer needs. When you adopt a lean strategy, the definition of what is relevant and reliable to your internal customers changes. We want to get the right information to the right people at the right place at the right time. This is the idea of pull. We want to improve the quality of our analysis and decision-making process because we can get better at predicting outcomes, and we want to apply improvement methodologies to continue to try to make the management accounting system better. Our operating practices, we have a daily flow or daily work where we're trying to establish strong links between operating performance and financial outcomes, and also identify the root causes of potential financial issues in the long run. At a weekly level, we're looking at value streams and how is the value stream performing, because value streams are the profit centers of lean organizations, and most improvement activities are done at the value stream level. So how are we managing our improvement activities to achieve our financial goals? And then the third area is in our decision making. And this is very much distributed throughout the organization. Are we using relevant and reliable information? Are we using the plan, do, check, act methodology? When I talked about lean financial coaches, this is a very important area where to deploy your lean financial coaches. And we have to begin to think of our decision making as more cross-functional than functional. What we want to instill in people is the idea of the economics of lean, which is a thinking pattern. We improve, we create capacity. What are we going to do with that capacity? Are we going to use it to maybe achieve some cost reduction? Are we going to deliver value? And that determines the outcome of financial success. We want to develop a deep understanding of the relationships between operating performance, financial performance, and how we're using our capacity. All of this gets deployed through the coaching and improvement Kata routines. We want to get away from traditional financial improvement where it's sort of like the top-down methodology where here's some short-term things we need to do and we know it's going to, improve us financially. But these types of things are not sustainable because people are not typically engaged. And so we just sort of tighten the screws a little more from my financial management viewpoint. We want to establish true plan, do, check, act. What are the operational root causes of our financial issues? How do we improve operations? How do we provide the right measures to know if we're improving? And then how do we improve the standardized work? So to wrap things up, I like to wrap most of my presentations up like this. Doesn't matter if you're trying to improve accounting processes. It doesn't matter if you're trying to improve your management accounting system. This sort of holds true. Lean accounting is all about numbers. Organizations use numbers all the time in the organization to do many, many different things. So the idea is we're trying to drive the right thinking and the right behavior, make better decisions, and in the long run, improve all the numbers. And this is really what the essence of lean accounting is about. How do we actually perform the lean accounting transformation process? One is to create awareness through training and education. Who needs to be aware? Senior leaders, your accounting staff, your functional managers, your lean leaders, all need to have the same level of awareness in terms of training and education about lean accounting. You have to build desire to change. Where are we today? Where do we want to go in the future? What are the benefits of this future state? What are the goals? You have to establish that early before you get started with anything. Next, demonstrate. Conduct pilots. You're trying to show that, the skills, the knowledge, you want to show the benefits of whatever you're trying to demonstrate. This builds support. This sort of proves the concept. So start small. Don't worry about doing everything all at once. And finally, sustain. Using a lot of the tools we talked about, standardized work, coaching, overall improvement methodology. You establish these new operating practices and then your system is sustained. So that wraps things up. Let me do 2 slides and then we'll try to get to some questions. Some final reminders. At the end of this webinar or when I close it, you're going to receive a simple 5-question survey. Please complete it. It helps us get better. And as a reminder, if you're a United States CPA and you'd like a CPE certificate, please contact me via email. I'd like to make 2 special offers to you for all of you that you attended. Our BMA's Lean Think software product, which is basically box score analysis. If you register as a user before the end of the month, you get a 60-day free trial. The normal trial is 15 days. Secondly, if you'd like a free 1-hour coaching session on how to create a lean accounting transformation plan, please contact me at my email address or give me a call and we can set some things up. Sorry about that. Let me just put this back up. Let me see if there's any questions I can get to. One question is it possible to implement lean accounting in one small area, unit section of a business? Can we create a cell model for lean accounting? Yes, you can. And that is really how you get started with lean accounting, is prove the concept. What we typically say is that, if you're looking at inside accounting, then you would want to, pick one process and do it well, not all your processes. If you're looking at management accounting, pick one value stream. All right, so that takes care of things for today, and I hope to hear from you soon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.